The biggest hurdle is I'm not good enough. We are programmed from a very young age by society to believe that we're not good enough. Then their thoughts stem from that belief. So the thought might be, I look like shit today, or I wish I had a different nose, or I wish I had different eyes, or she's got a lovely figure and mine looks like this. And the actions that come from those thoughts stop doing what we want to do. So you're not going to go out, you're not going to see anyone, you're not going to make eye contact, and then that's going to impact on your hour, your day, your month, your year, and your life, unless you change that belief, which is what the hypnosis will help to do. And our brains don't know the difference between thought and reality. You're not destined to live the rest of your life with the current brain chemistry that you have at the moment, and you can rewire them in an easy, really simple way.
Before we continue, I would like to quickly talk to you about my Lean with Leanne fitness and health app. I created the Lean with Leanne app to help support women with their training and nutrition throughout every single chapter of their life. The app provides structured training plans for the gym or at home for women, including programs for hormonal balance, pre- and postnatal training, building confidence on the gym floor, and sustainable weight loss. And I am giving all podcast listeners an exclusive free trial to the Lean with Leanne app. So if you're interested, head to the link in the show notes to get your free trial now. Hey guys, and welcome to We Missed the Memo, the women's health podcast where no appointment is necessary and no question goes unanswered. Today we have our very own bonus babe from Positive Change with Georgia, who is a mindset coach and a hypnotherapist. And we are going to find out all about hypnotherapy, how it can help, why most women know exactly what to do but seem to struggle to continue to do it, and if hypnotherapy is the answer. So, hello, my love.
Hello.
How are you? Nice to have you back.
Good. I am so happy to be back. I've been itching to get back on this sofa.
Yes.
Yeah, love it.
I love it. We obviously do the bonus episode together, but today we are on our main episode, talking all about you and your job.
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking about rewiring your mind, why so many women self-sabotage, and why we all struggle to be consistent. But first of all, give us a little intro, babes, about who you are and where you come from.
Where you come from. So I'm Georgia, and I am a clinical hypnotherapist, and I guess mindset coach now, because I have a lot of different modalities that I add into my therapy sessions. And I'm also a mum of 3, as you know, and a trauma rewind practitioner now. So that, in a nutshell, basically, in layman's terms, clinical hypnotherapy means it's in a clinical setting. So it's usually in a therapy room or in a therapy Zoom room, as we're all used to now.
Yeah.
And mindset coach, because I use some NLP techniques. We do EFT tapping as well in my sessions, and other kind of techniques that aren't specifically under the umbrella of hypnotherapy, but I know that they really help with what people need to go through in order to get to certain goals. And trauma rewind is the only time in my sessions we'll go back to a traumatic episode that happened in the past. Most of my sessions are done solution focused, which means we're looking at the bright future that somebody wants to create rather than digging up the past. But sometimes we're stuck in that trauma loop.
Yeah.
And sometimes we need to go over some specific traumas in a really healthy way that actually helps the brain to process that trauma, so we stop acting from the trauma and we can move forward from it.
Nice.
So that's that.
So how did you become a clinical hypnotherapist?
So I had to do around a year's worth of training to do it. And the reason really that I did it that way rather than an intensive course, because you can do an intensive course, but I had little children at home and it needed to be something that would fit around family life and obviously fit around my partner's job, because we didn't have childcare or anything so regularly. So the way that it kind of worked with me is I had my second baby and I lost myself completely in motherhood. And I just remember saying to Lloyd one day, just breaking down on the sofa and just crying to him and just saying, I just don't even know who I am anymore. Like, I need something for me. You know, every day was lovely, but Groundhog Day. And prior to having the children, I worked lots of different like office jobs and worked in a legal team, worked for an oil company, and it was all very like corporate.
Yeah.
But I always knew deep down that I wanted to do something to help other people, especially with their mindset.
Yeah.
So Lloyd, we were having this chat and I was crying, and Lloyd just said, well, let's break it down. What do you think you want to do? And I just said, well, I just really want to help people, number one. And number two, obviously, I think it needs to work around my lifestyle and our lifestyle. So he just looked at me and he said, what about being a hypnotherapist? And I just kind of went, oh, well, that is a really good idea. I'd had hypnotherapy before in the past, and it completely changed my mindset with a lot of things. But I was like, oh, okay. And then within 20 minutes, we were on the internet looking at courses, and he was like, look, there's a course in Plymouth, which is obviously like an hour away.
Yep.
It's one weekend every month with evening sessions as well.
Oh, amazing.
And I was just like, yeah, let's do it. So a few months later, I started that, and it was 11-month course with loads of different like case studies and things that we had to do at the end. But obviously, I've never looked back. I absolutely loved it.
Wow. I mean, shout out to Lloyd for giving you the
He
motivation there.
did,
It's nothing like having a supporter as a husband.
That's right. That's it.
So is there a particular like reason you thought this was the job for you?
Certainly. So I was always a very anxious child. So my mum went back to work quite early after I was born. I mean, I think I was probably between 6 and 9 months old, which is the traditional kind of maternity leave. But she had no other choice. She had to go back to work full time, like lots of mums do. And I went to stay with my nan Monday to Friday. And my nan, I thought the world of my nan, as we do for lots of our grandparents, you know. I loved spending time with her. We had the best days, but wasn't until about 10 or 15 years ago. And my nan passed away when I was 9, so I didn't kind of witness this consciously. But my mum said she had really bad bipolar, and she was so anxious, and she had issues with other things as well. And it highlighted to me exactly why I was the way that I was. So when I was with her, we rarely went out. If we did go out, she didn't drive because, as I learned, she was too anxious to get behind a wheel of a car. So we'd go on the bus into town in Plymouth, and we'd go to the same 3 or 4 shops, and then we'd go home. But as a kid, I didn't really think about any of that. But if there were days when we were at home, it would be lots of reading the newspaper together. So from age like 2 to when I went to school, because I didn't go to nursery, it was, Holly and Jessica have been abducted. Do you remember this? With the Manchester United t-shirts on, Holly and Jessica have been abducted. You never go near a stranger. And it was, if you ever see a white van, you cross the road.
Right.
And so I was always very anxious of other people and men as well. So I didn't even like being left with my dad, and I loved my dad to pieces. But when I was little, if I was ever left with my dad, I really didn't like it. My safe people were my mum, my nan, and my auntie. And then, because I never went to nursery or anything, when I came to go to school, I completely freaked out because all of a sudden I was supposed to be dropped at this door with a load of strangers and a load of children. And I completely freaked out. So they had to do this kind of phased entry with me into school, where my nan would drop me later to avoid the crowds, pick me up later. I had to have lunch with my teacher until year 2 in school because I wouldn't go into the canteen because I was so anxious and nervous of everybody and everything. And that kind of settled as I got into primary school. But then when I went to secondary school, it all started again. My nan had passed away at this point as well. So one of my safe people had passed away. Secondary school was a complete blur for me. I don't remember any of it. It was an all-girls school as well. And I really felt completely out of place. And that came to its worst head, I think, when I got my first boyfriend when I was about 15, because I realised like I was emotionally connected to this person and they could leave me at any time. I guess that also comes back to when my nan died. One of my safe people died, so it's that sense of abandonment. So I really liked this boy, and I just completely lost my head. I was having lunch in the toilet because I didn't want to go back into the it was always like a lunch thing. It was always a food related issue. Didn't want to eat in front of people. And that just got worse and worse until I was about 20. and I moved away from home, moved up to London, completely, again, different stimulus, having to get on the tube, having panic attacks, and never really knowing why I felt this way. I just thought I was strange. I thought I was weird. And then I went to a therapist when I was about 20, and she did some hypnotherapy sessions with me. And my life just completely changed. I just felt like, oh my gosh, I don't actually have to live in this anxious mind anymore. I could do things that I'd never done before and make really big decisions, whereas before I couldn't even decide really what I wanted to have for lunch because it was too much of an overpowering thing. So I had these hypnotherapy sessions and it completely changed my life massively until, again, I had children. And then I was back at home, you know, being in those four walls again, and it was lockdown as well when I had my second, and that's when I started doing my training. So when Lloyd said, what about being a hypnotherapist? I was like, yeah, that's it. That's it.
It's crazy to hear you say how anxious you were as a teenager and a child, because I think if anyone that knows you now, like, would never think that that's how you would feel, because you never come across as anxious to me. You always come across as like this confident, bubbly person. But it just goes to show that sometimes the environments that you are brought up in or are around for long periods of time have a big effect on the way you view the world and yourself. It's really interesting. So when you're on your course, what is like the science behind hypnotherapy?
So lots of people think, are you going to make me dance like a chicken, like they do at Butlins or Pontins or whatever? Or are you going to make me, you know, think that I'm naked in front of this whole crowd of people? You know, I went to one of those shows when I was about 8 or 9 and I loved it. I was like, oh my gosh, these people genuinely think they're naked in front of the crowd, and they were like covering up and like all really scared.
Is it a real thing though? Like,
absolutely
are they not actors?
is. No, it's absolutely a real thing.
God.
I've seen it happen so many times, and I've watched it as well on YouTube. And you can tell, you know, these people, and also one of our family friends was on that show on the stage at Pontins when I was 8 or 9, and they were told to like sing their heart out, pretend that they were like on an arena tour. And afterwards she was like, yeah, I had no recollection of that. But that is not what I do. You know, that is absolutely not what I do.
Can you not make me believe I'm Beyonce?
Could do for a minute, I reckon. Could do. But yeah, so that's basically not it. So when I went on to this course, they said all of that. They said, you know, traditionally people think you're going to do these crazy things, but that's not at all what it is. So essentially you've got your subconscious mind and your conscious mind, and we spend 95% of our day in our subconscious mind.
That's crazy.
Without even knowing that we're in that part of our brain. So the subconscious mind is where all of our protective reactions are. They're where our long-term memory is. They're also where our beliefs about ourselves and the world are. And they're formed from such a young age. And the rest of our day, the extra 5%, is in our conscious mind. So the part of our brain where, you know, you are when you're talking to somebody, or you're thinking, oh, I need to put that load of washing from the washing machine into the tumble dryer. You know, that's your conscious part of your brain. But that subconscious is essentially blank when you're born. And you are born as almost like an empty computer. So you know, when you buy a new laptop, you know, the laptop will only necessarily do the programs that are already pre-downloaded onto it. And then when you're a baby, your programs are, I need care and attention and to be fed. I don't want to be dropped, and I don't like loud noises. Everything else is programmed onto you from your experiences. So we've got experiences which are, you know, some positive, some negative. It's why some people find, let's say, public speaking like not a problem whatsoever, whereas other people might find that absolutely paralyzing because of their experiences, and they could be completely relative or unrelative, but also have similar triggers. So when you're in a state of hypnosis, your brain is able to bypass the conscious mind, which is the part of you which tells you you can do something or you can't do something a lot of the time. And you're able to get into the subconscious where all those negative programs are, let's say, and you can rewire them in an easy, really simple way, more simple than if you just tried to use like willpower alone.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what happens to the brain while you are doing hypnosis on someone?
It's a good question. So when you're in a session of hypnosis, or when you are under hypnosis, you just feel super relaxed.
Yeah.
You feel like you are also, sometimes people feel like if they're driving from A to B, so a route that they do all the time, you know, sometimes you'll drive that route and you'll get to your destination and you'll go, oh, I don't even remember how I got here.
All the time.
You're in a state of hypnosis or alpha theta brainwave state then, which is the hypnotic state, because you do it all the time. It's just autopilot. Or if the people say, like, once you've learned how to ride a bike, you'll never forget.
Yeah.
You just get on the bike and you start pedaling. It's a subconscious programming.
Yeah.
But have you ever done it? I don't know if you drive a manual car or any of the listeners drive a manual car, but you don't actually have to tell your brain how to change the gears.
Yeah.
You can hear it in the engine and you automatically do it. And when you start thinking about, oh, do I need to, sometimes you can mess up and you can stall and things. Yeah. So it's all like a subconscious. So when you're in a state of hypnosis, I would gently guide somebody into their subconscious mind where they're neither here nor there. They sometimes remember what I'm saying, sometimes they don't. But 9 times out of 10, they'll wake up from the hypnosis or come around and they'll say, I don't remember any of that, or I remember bits of that, and it's gone straight into the subconscious mind.
So it's effectively reprogramming subconscious beliefs to then impact your habits and your thoughts.
Exactly. It's all a cycle.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
So from a like neurological and behavioural point of view, what changes? It's the thought process and
absolutely.
The beliefs.
So your brain is like a dynamic computer and it's like a power grid. So we have different routes in our brain and they are our habits. So the neurons are the roots essentially, and if you struggle to do something new, that's just because you've not made the pathway of the neurons in your brain. And our brains don't know the difference between thought and reality. So just thinking something through alone, visualizing something through alone will help you so much to do it in the physical, because your brain will already think, oh, I've done that. And there's been so many studies done. There was one study, I think it was the University of Chicago, where this professor got 3 groups of students and they were doing basketball free throws. And he gave the first group physical basketballs to throw and they were supposed to practice 30 minutes a day, I think. The second group, they were only supposed to visualize throwing the basketball, not touch the basketball. And the third group, they were told not to do anything, just to come back in 2 weeks. Okay. 2 weeks later, the people that actually physically threw the basketball only improved 1% more than the people that visualized it. And I think it was like 22 and 23% better than the group that didn't do anything at all. So it just proves that just visualizing changes your brain. And that's where I love it so much. And it gives me goosebumps when I think about it, because it's where the woo-woo of this spirituality meets the science. And, you know, people go, oh, just visualize your dreams, visualize your goals. But actually, you can do that. But also don't forget to visualize all the little steps that you've got to do in between. So if your goal is to do a high rocks, let's say, but you've never even stepped foot in a gym and you're too anxious to go to the gym, just put an alarm on your phone for a couple of times a day to close your eyes when that alarm goes off and just imagine yourself putting your gym clothes on and walking into the gym. That's step 1. I love this. And then move on to step 2. So step 2 would be, right, now I'm going into the gym and signing up as a member, visualize that, and then physically do it, because your brain will know you've already done it in your mind, so it will be easier for you. And then do all the rest of the steps as well. Don't just visualize the end goal, because sometimes your brain is like, right, I got that now, but how do I get to all these little steps in between?
This is like touching on manifestation
and
law of assumption and all that stuff that I love. That
Yeah.
maybe is a whole nother episode for us to delve into, but I love all of this stuff. Why do you think that so many women in particular struggle with being consistent with like loads of different things in life? I mean, obviously in my profession, I see it with the gym and nutrition and self-care, but I'm guessing like a lot of women come to you because they struggle to be consistent with their confidence or the way they view their body or the fears that they have. Like, what is it that you think is the biggest hurdle for them being consistent?
Yeah. The biggest hurdle, people aren't always aware of this, but it's especially for women and men, it's I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
So we are programmed from a very young age by society to believe that we're not good enough, because society profits a lot from us buying this face cream to get rid of the wrinkles, to buy this weight loss package because it'll get rid of our, the things in our body that we don't like. And even if we didn't have any traumas, if we didn't have any negative voices in our heads. So if you're brought up in a family where your mum was always on a diet, let's say, you're programmed then to think, oh, she doesn't think she's enough, but I think she's enough. I love my mum. She's amazing just as she is, but she doesn't think she's good enough. And we grew up in the era of magazines where we'd have, Victoria Beckham didn't lose her baby weight, God forbid, in 3 weeks. So she was put on the front of a magazine and told that she was too big. So we're always up against it with society, but we're also up against it with our own experiences. So when women come to me, it's usually because they have that underlying belief that they're not good enough. Then their thoughts stem from that belief, which is, I'm not good enough. So the thought might be, I look like shit today, or I wish I had a different nose, or I wish I had different eyes, or she's got a lovely figure and mine looks like this. That's the thoughts. Then the actions that come from those thoughts stop doing what we want to do. So maybe if you say to yourself, I'm not good enough as a belief, your thought is, I look like shit today, you're not going to go out. You're not going to see anyone. You're not going to make eye contact. You're not going to speak to people. So then your bodily feelings is going to be a feeling of being depressed. Your shoulders will slump forward. Your facial expression won't be approachable to people because you just want to shrink and be small and not be seen. And then that's going to impact on your hour, your day, your month, your year, and your life, unless you change that belief, which is what the hypnosis will help to do.
I love that. And that is so true. And it's something I've struggled with. I think you've obviously struggled with it as well. And something that I have had to address in hypnotherapy and other forms of therapy. And I think it's really empowering to know that like loads of women struggle with it. I think probably everyone does, don't they? Because like you say, society is so like designed for us to have to invest in all of these wellness things and beauty things to be able to feel like we're good enough. But even then, you don't, do you? Unless you're changing the belief system. It doesn't matter what you buy. It doesn't matter what treatment you have. You're always going to go back to that thought system, aren't you? Yeah. So what are the most common subconscious beliefs that you see in your female clients?
So it's usually, I'm not enough, but it could also be, I'm not worthy of love, care, or attention. So if somebody's had a situation in their life where they've had to be independent from a very young age because their parents were downright neglectful, or if their parents were otherwise occupied, or maybe they were always at work and they were left with caregivers that weren't quite in tune with their needs, children grow up having the belief that I'm not worthy of love, care, or attention. So that comes out of, I don't want anybody to help me.
Yeah.
But you have to have a help-seeking behaviour to some certain extent in life, because if you're not going to ask for help from a professional, how are you going to get better if you're not doing anything about it? Okay, it's almost like if you had, I don't know, you needed antibiotics, but you didn't go to the doctor and you didn't even look into like herbal remedies or something. You're just going to sit there with tonsillitis. It's going to really hurt and it might lead to sepsis. So you don't want that. And it's the same for your mental health. So if you have this attitude and this belief system of, I'm not worthy of love, care, and attention, I don't even want to bother the doctors with my problem or bother that therapist with my problem, nothing is going to change for you.
Yeah, and I think also women in particular normalise feeling like shit, because it feels like, well, this is just part of being a woman, whether it's like menstrual cycle, perimenopause, hormones, all of that, whether it's being a mum and constantly feeling like you're just meant to be tired all of the time. And I think as women, we don't ask for help, do we? And it's actually really important. And something that I think about is, I've always been a hyper independent person who never likes to ask for help. But when it comes to my mental health and reaching points in my life where I'm like, this needs to change, even if I've thought, I don't really want to do this for myself, like in particular now at this period of my life, I think there are things I need to heal and change my beliefs on, because I don't want to be passing that on to my future children. And I think that's really powerful, is if you don't at this moment in time feel worthy enough to do it for yourself, find another connection like your children and use that as the motivation to ask for the help. I think that's really powerful. So these beliefs, these subconscious beliefs that we make in our mind, do they always start in childhood, or can it also be things that are created in adult life or school life?
It can be anything that is created in your life from any huge event usually, or just a trickling of small things that happen. But most of the time it does stem from age 0 to 7, because when you're age 0 to 7, your brainwave state is naturally in a state of hypnosis. So you're like a sponge in that age, and you're downloading all of the behaviours from your parents, your caregivers, because when we were prehistoric humans, going back, thousands and thousands of years, life was really dangerous back then, and we had to learn the behaviours of our tribes. We had to learn the behaviour of how to survive, because at any point your parents could be killed when they're hunting for food, or fall off a cliff, or another animal or tribe could kill them and eat all your food. So lots of the time, life was really scary back then, and you needed to know how to defend yourself, how to hunt, how to create a shelter, and what berries to eat versus the ones that are going to make you ill or whatever. We needed to know all of that really easily. And our brains haven't changed from that age, but life has changed obviously so much. So you may have a belief that you aren't good enough because of certain things, or maybe something scary happened in your childhood and then it's rewired your belief systems. But if you had a really lovely childhood, age 0 to 7, but you had huge trauma, age 12, 13, 14, 25, your brain rewires after it has trauma, because that traumatic event stays at the forefront of your mind in your short-term memory unless it's properly dealt with. Because what your brain is trying to do is to stop you from getting into that situation ever again, which is why you get the flashbacks, you stay away from the certain people, the triggers, the stimulus, the places, because it just takes you back to that moment too much. And it's actually a protective mechanism, because your brain's job is to keep you alive. But once you start living and you don't address that trauma, then your life is going to be a byproduct of it from then on.
So you're constantly stuck in fight or flight all of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So talk us through a typical hypnotherapy session. If I came to you and said, I want hypnotherapy, what does a session look like?
So most of the time, if you've got, let's say, confidence issues, anxiety issues, or you just want to have some healthier habits or healthier beliefs, the standard situation with sessions is that you'd need 6 sessions for a 93% success rate in hypnotherapy, which is just incredible. When you think about psychoanalysis, I think that's 200 sessions for a 30%, 33%. Don't quote me on that. It's definitely in the 30s for 200 sessions, because the brain doesn't know the difference between thought and reality. And if you're constantly dragging up the past, talking about the past and what happened in the past, your brain is going to be reliving, and your body will be reliving those moments when you're in that therapy session. And that is amazing up to a certain point, because you get a diagnosis. You've got borderline personality disorder, or you're bipolar, or you've got anxiety disorder or something. And that's great, because you know the reason why, and you can work from there. But with hypnotherapy, it is a little bit different, because it's solution focused. So you're looking forward. The typical session would start really with just talking about the positive things that you've done this week. Because if you're coming to me and you're depressed, your brain is always looking out for the problems, which our brain does anyway. But my job is to uplift you. My job is for you to go away from this session having hope for the future. So we would talk about the good things that has happened in the week. And if you can't think of any good things, it could be just simple things like, I woke up today and I brushed my hair. Okay? And then I'll ask a question generally of how you're feeling today on a scale of 1 to 10. 10's really good, 1's really rubbish. And if you say, oh, I'm like a 2, I'll say, okay, so what small step can you take to take you from a 1 to a 2 by this time next week? So it's not something drastic. It's not, I've got to run a marathon this week or something. Sometimes it'll be, oh, I'm just going to get up and I'm going to brush my hair, I'm going to put some clothes on and a little bit of lipstick just to make myself feel better. Everybody is so different. And then once we've done that, you'll go into like 20 to 30 minutes of hypnosis, which is essentially you lay down and I talk to you with a bit of nice music on in the background about whatever it is that you'd like to achieve. So we'll do future pacing. So I'll take you through how it would feel to walk into a situation that you are at the moment scared to go into, and we'll imagine it in the brain because the brain doesn't know the difference between thought and reality. So we'll take that into consideration, and I'll also reprogram into your mind things like you are good enough, you're worthy of love, care, attention, you can do things that scare you, you have that strength. So it's about reminding your brain to override those negative beliefs that you have as well.
So we can really change our thoughts and habits. Like for a listener maybe who's thinking, I have felt this way for me, 38 years. We can change that. We can completely stop that negative belief and change it.
Absolutely.
That's exciting to know, isn't it?
You're not destined to live the rest of your life with the current brain chemistry that you have at the moment. It's been proved time and time again. So there's something called neuroplasticity, which I'm sure lots of people have heard about now, but it is just about how the brain is malleable and how it can change up to any age. It doesn't have to be stuck. And lots of people with like a victim mindset, let's say, or an overly depressed mindset might say, I've been dealt these cards and I've got to spend the rest of my life with these cards. There's nothing I can do about it. But that's such a limiting belief you're putting on yourself. And I've seen women come to me that are in their 60s that just want to, for example, be able to get on an aeroplane. They've not been on an aeroplane for years. They've had a massive panic attack once on an aeroplane. And since that moment in their 20s, they've never stepped foot on an aeroplane. They have 3 sessions and then they're having plane flights here, there and everywhere. I'm getting messages on Facebook and Instagram like, oh, I'm going to the Maldives next month and next year we've already booked to go to so-and-so. But thank you, Georgia, because I wouldn't have been able to do it without you and hypnotherapy. But it's not me, it's just the method of it, which is just so amazing.
That's amazing. So do you typically see the same sort of issues come in to you? Is it normally like anxiety, or is there more specific things that you deal with?
There's a lot at the moment of variations, but I would say it all stems from that belief of I'm not good enough to begin with. So that's where it starts. And then it can be a lot of anxiety issues with people, a lot of confidence issues, a lot of comparison. I'm seeing a lot of also women that just feel like they've lost themselves. They've lost their sparkle and they're just like, I used to be this outgoing, happy person and now I just feel like I am lost. And I don't know what to do. And they don't know where to start. So we start really, really gently with it. And then we can go from there. But then there's also the people who have specific things like they have a fear of flying. They want to stop smoking. They want to stop self-sabotaging, and they want to maybe find a relationship or even have a baby. A lot of the time, it's actually a joke that, it's not a joke, it's not funny, but when I started my hypnotherapy training, the bloke that was taking the course, he said, people will come to you and they will leave 6 weeks later and they're either pregnant, they've left their abusive partner, they've left the job that they hate, or they've completely rearranged their whole life in this short space of time. And you'll think, we didn't even want to do any of this, or we didn't touch on that. But it's just because when your brain finally comes out of fight or flight, all of these things start to make sense and you almost see the light. So
it's like a domino effect that then goes on to affect your life in a more positive way.
Absolutely.
I love that. So if someone has hypnotherapy, but they're a bit nervous of it, like, what is it going to change? Is it going to change their thoughts, their identity, their habits, all of the above?
Yeah, all of the above.
Yeah.
In a positive way. I'm never going to sit there and speak to somebody into their subconscious mind anything negative. It's all very, very positive. It's all solution focused. And I think the most important thing that people will notice is not a huge drastic change on the first few couple of appointments, but it will be, I just did that differently. And
Yeah.
I've noticed I reacted to that when I would have normally reacted in a different way. Or maybe they'll say, I noticed I responded to that calmly rather than reacted impulsively. And they'll just have these little changes, like you say, and they'll domino, and then they'll become this whole new identity. And it's just amazing to see.
I love that. So let's talk success stories, and I'll go first because I've used you for numerous things. But one of the biggest successes I've had with your hypnotherapy is I have struggled since I was 16 with an eating disorder. So I've had bulimia for a long time, and it's something that I manage now. And one of my biggest triggers was going on holiday, and I love a holiday, but it would be really triggering for me because, number one, I would be trying to relax rather than exercise, and there's just food everywhere, isn't there? Food, alcohol, all inclusive. And for me, it would get out of control and it would basically ruin the holiday. And I came to you and was like, is there a way you can help me so that when I go on holiday, I can switch off, I can not think about food, and it doesn't become like this big cloud, dark cloud. And we worked together, and then you gave me a hypnotherapy recording, which I take on every holiday. I listen to it every day. And the last time I struggled with bulimia on holiday was probably 5 years ago. And that's because I've had therapy as well, but the hypnotherapy keeps me calm. It completely takes my brain away from binge eating or overindulging. It gives me balance. And that's fucking life-changing, that is. And that is just, well, down to you and your hypnotherapy recordings. So I am a personal testament. But what other examples have you had of like real life-changing stuff like that?
So when I first started and nobody knew me as a hypnotherapist, I literally made an Instagram page and I put out like my logo and a little thing saying, oh, I'm now taking hypnotherapy appointments. I'm qualified. And I was so anxious. I was so nervous to put this out. I was nearly sick on the day that I put it out. And Lloyd was just like, just put it out because you're going to help people. You've done all this training. You're amazing at it. Just do it. So I put it out and I first got a few trickles of people that were like, yeah, okay, we'll do a session. And I was charging like, I think it was like quarter of the price.
Yeah.
And it was very, very slow. And then I sat in bed one night and I thought, I've just got to start from scratch and I've got to start sessions for free. So I put a big post out and I said, anybody that has suicidal thoughts at the moment, message me and I'll get you booked in for free hypnotherapy.
Wow.
I was inundated,
Oh, wow.
absolutely inundated with people that were like, I tried to kill myself 2 weeks ago. I've been to the doctor and they've said it's okay for me to have hypnotherapy. I've spoken to my doctor because that was one of the things. Make sure your doctor's on board with it.
Yeah.
And they've said it's fine, anything that can help me. And then the fear crept in for me and I was like, oh my gosh, I've actually got to help some people now that have actively tried to take their own life. So it was all on Zoom because it was in COVID and nobody knew the way that the therapy world was going to go during COVID because people were used to go into a setting like this. So it was all really scary. But I had this one guy and he came to me and he said, I've got a 4-year-old boy. I love him dearly, but me and my partner split up a few months ago. She doesn't want me back. And I tried to take my own life 2 weeks ago. He said, I don't think this is going to work, but I'm willing to try anything. And by this time, I think he was my 3rd or 4th client. And I just was like, right, let's go by the book.
Yeah.
Let's do exactly what I've been taught to do. And let's just see how we go. First session, we did the first session and I think he said, oh, I'm a 0. I'm not a 10. I'm definitely like, I tried to kill myself 2 weeks ago. And I said, what would make you a 1 by this time next week by our first appointment? And he said, I don't know if I was just to actually wake up and be able to be with my own mind for the day. So we spent the whole session, you know, talking about how he could do that in different ways. We had 30 minutes of hypnosis by the book. See you later. So the next week came and these were free sessions. So he wasn't paying for it. He had no like reason to attend because it's free. And a lot of time people don't take it seriously if it's free. So he Came back the second week and he was like, yeah, I've been all right this week.
Wow.
Like, I've been okay. Like, I've not tried to obviously take my own life again. My thoughts have been half negative, half positive, but I've managed to get myself back to work Friday this week.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, great. This is amazing. It seems to be working. Anyway, fast forward 4 weeks and he's telling me he set up a charity to help men that are feeling suicidal. It gives me goosebumps.
I've got goosebumps.
It gives me goosebumps. And I was amazed. I was thinking, and he was like, Georgia, this is just down to the hypnotherapy. He was like, and I give him audios. I give him a sleep audio as well. He said, I've been religiously listening to that every single night. And by week 6, he had set up a walk where he walked from where his dad was born up the line all the way back to Torbay, where he lives, for charity. And he did the whole walk. I've got chills as well. And I've got him on Facebook. I see all of his posts now. Him and his little boy are just the cutest. He is just absolutely fine. So from that moment on, I was like, I've got total faith in this.
Yeah.
And there's been so many other success stories, but he's just the one that made me believe that actually this can change somebody's life.
Save somebody's life. You saved his life.
Exactly. It's amazing.
That is insane. Yeah. Is there anyone who shouldn't have hypnotherapy?
Okay. It's a great question. So people that have schizophrenia.
Okay.
If that's managed by medication and your doctor gives it the okay, yes, of course. But sometimes with something like that, it can warp your distortion of reality anyway.
Yeah.
So you might go to somewhere in hypnosis that I'm not guiding you because of the episode that you might be having at the time. If you are newly pregnant, only because when you go into a state of hypnosis, it can drop your blood pressure quite a lot. So we say to avoid it if you know for the first 6 to 16 weeks, because, you know, some people are like, oh, my blood pressure's fine, and we just do a very gentle session. But if you're newly pregnant, probably just avoid having any deep hypnosis. Listen to a guided meditation or a guided hypnosis, but don't, you know, go fully under because you could wake up a little bit dizzy.
Yeah.
Another people to avoid it is if your doctor has said, I don't think that this is a good idea for you if you're, you know, epileptic or something. Okay. But everybody else, it's just a nice modality to use alongside your life.
Yeah. I love that. What are the common misconceptions about hypnotherapy?
Is that you're going to be completely under and that you're not going to understand what's happened to you, and you're going to come out of hypnosis and you're going to dance like a chicken, fall in love with the fire hydrant or something, and then everyone's going to have laughed at you.
Yeah.
You know, that's the common misconceptions, and I can't do that. That's a stage hypnotist. But also with hypnotherapy, you know, lots of people say, oh, I've heard of it, and I did it back in the 60s or 70s and it never worked for me. But, you know, lots of people went into that without any prior knowledge of the brain. I always explain to my clients about how the brain and the mind works, because then they have an understanding of what I'm doing. If you just go in cold and you're just like, right, just lay there and I'm going to talk to you and you're going to fall asleep for a bit, people are going to wake up and think, well, what the heck did she just do?
Yeah, and I think knowledge is power. So knowing, you know, what's going to happen and how your brain thoughts are going to change will help people, won't it? Mm-hmm. Have you ever had a client who's resisted it? Like, is there occasions where it doesn't work because people won't let you in?
I had a guy when I was training who we had to bring case studies in, and I just put on Facebook and said, does anybody around Plymouth on this day that would like to try a session of hypnotherapy? And he was like, oh yeah, I'll come along. And it was this older guy that I was like a friend of a family that I'd had on Facebook for years. And he came in and I said, okay, we did the first part of the session. And I said, now you just got to lay down. And there was a nice comfy bed. Lay down, I'll put a little bit of music on in the background and you just close your eyes and just relax. And he was like, I don't want to lay down and I don't want to close my eyes. So I was like, okay, this is great. This is going great. So he stared at me for the whole of the hypnosis. Anyway, a couple of weeks later, I put on Facebook again saying, does anybody need another? And he came back.
Oh, no.
And I said, before we started the session, I said, oh, I thought you really weren't going to be into this. And he said, No, I loved it. I just get really anxious if I'm closing my eyes. But he was resisting it to begin with. The second session, he did lay down and close his eyes because he knew what was going to happen. But if you're skeptical, if you don't, it's like anything. If you're skeptical of a PT, don't go to one.
Yeah.
If you're skeptical of a hairdresser and you think they're going to do your hair wrong, just don't go to it. It's the same with this. You've got to be open to it.
Yeah. And with the rise in social media, and I see this in the fitness industry, influencers who aren't frigging qualified and talking utter crap on social media, like, is that happening in the hypnotherapy world? What are the red flags to look out for?
This is a really important one, actually. And if someone says that they can heal you, if someone is the healer, that is a big red flag. Stay away from them. A hypnotherapist or any therapist should work as a partner with you, and they should work together to sort things out. Not, okay, you're going to go into a state of hypnosis and you're going to be a billionaire by this time next week. You know, that's not, it's, what's the phrase? If it feels too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. And some of the things that I do, it does feel too good to be true, but you work together as a team, and it works on, you've got to do the work at home as well. It's not just all on your hypnotherapist.
Yeah. There is such a lot of crap out there, isn't there? Like, heal your trauma in a week, like, doesn't really work like that, does it?
That's never going to work, but
I love it. So what's the main difference between, let's say, normal therapy or counselling and hypnotherapy?
So counselling, you generally go back over the past and the issues that have got you to where you are now. And that is so helpful to a certain point, because sometimes people have never verbalised their life and their issues. So having a counsellor or a therapist that can validate your feelings and say, you have been living in fight or flight since you were born, or you've got abandonment wounds because your dad left you, or whatever it might be. That's really helpful to a certain point. But if you have lots of sessions of counselling or psychoanalysis and you don't feel like you're able to have better thoughts, better habits, better hours, days, months and years in your life from those sessions, maybe it's time to try something that's a bit more solution focused and something that is going to get you to being where you want to be. And that's where hypnotherapy can just blow your life out of the water in the best way.
So combining the two is kind of like a really helpful way to move forward, deal with the past, but also progress to a more positive future. We do have a tradition on this podcast, Georgia. We ask our guests to bring in a photo of them as a child. So have you got your picture?
I have.
Give us a little look. Flash it at camera number 3.
I have. So this is me. I think, what do you reckon? Probably 1?
That is the cutest little outfit, little sailor girl outfit. The reason we get someone to bring a picture in is because I like to ask the question, if you could say anything to little Georgia now as the adult that you are, what would you say and why?
I would say just keep going. You have these experiences in life for a reason, and you're going to help so many people, and just find the joy in every single day. Find what makes you happy, and just don't listen to anybody that tells you can't do anything.
I love that. Thank you so much. We are going to have Georgia on for so many more episodes. We're going to delve into hypnotherapy specifically for emotional eating, birth trauma, fear of judgment, confidence, consistency with the gym, body image, perimenopause, hormone stress, because so many people have written in for all these different things. So we are going to delve into it all, aren't we? But thank you for explaining hypnotherapy and the science behind it. Where can people find you? Who do you work with? Give them all the deets.
Okay, so you can find me on Instagram at Positive Change with Georgia. That's where I live on the internet, really. And if you go on the link tree, there's my website. I've got a couple of courses on there. I've got one free pen to paper activation PDF that you can download, which is basically getting you clear about where you want to be in life, so you can start making those changes. So it's all on Instagram.
Ideal.
Really.
What's your Insta page, babe?
Positive Change with Georgia.
There you go.
At
so
Positive Change.
Follow her. Give her a DM if you want to work with her, or buy one of her courses. I have them. They are life-changing. And If you are one of our Patreon members, then on the bonus, we're going to be answering some listeners' questions, and Georgia is going to be dropping a free audio for us and hopefully a discount code for any of our Patty members. Please don't forget to like and subscribe the podcast. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, share and tag us on your socials, and you can follow us at We Missed the Memo. You can also watch this live on our YouTube channel, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, We Missed the Memo podcast. And we really want to hear from you. We want to know, what are the memos that you have missed? Who do you want us to get on? What do you want us to talk about? Please DM us or email us at wemissedthememo@hotmail.com. And we will see you next week for another episode of the We Missed the Memo podcast.